Hello, and welcome to Global Data Themes Instant Insights. At Global Data, we define a theme as something that keeps a CEO awake at night, as businesses that invest in important themes will succeed, and those that don't will fail.
Welcome to Top Tech for Instant Insights, your monthly tech news roundup. I'm Emma and I'm here with Hugo and Patrick. We all work at Global Data's Thematic Intelligence and research how disruptive themes impact the world we live in. So in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I love to start by saying that I'm very thankful for being able to work with you amazing people on this brilliant podcast.
Oh, isn't she nice?
Very sweet.
What are you guys thankful for?
Real thankful for completing our very exciting and extremely insightful upcoming prediction report. It will be out very, very soon.
So exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you on that, Patrick, but I'm also thankful that at lunch, Emma saved me from an ant which was in my hair. So
wow.
That was very kind of her.
It was very weird.
She's really on it today.
Yeah, he's covered in creepy crawlies. I'd step away if I were you, Patrick.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that everyone's taste buds are very excited to be tantalised by some more top tech. So shall we dive into our headlines?
Let's do it.
Sam Altman was let go by the OpenAI board. He then joined Microsoft along with other key OpenAI employees, including President Greg Brockman, and he now returns to OpenAI. Leading advertisers, including Apple, Disney, and IBM, suspend advertising on X. Meta disbands responsible AI team. The UK hosted the AI Safety Summit, which saw the Chinese and US counterparts meet. OpenAI launches AI agents, which mirror the creation of the App Store. Microsoft launches its own ARM-designed AI chips named Maya and Cobalt. Chipmaker Broadcom has completed the acquisition of VMware for $69 billion.
So, Hugo, mate, tell me, what is your AI story for November?
So, AI is sort of the theme, and we see that again this month. And I'm sure we'll continue to feel its presence in the coming months. Saying that, though, I think it's fair to say that this month seems especially turbulent. The biggest story of the last week has been the turmoil at OpenAI, as we mentioned, the company that created ChatGPT. Over 700 of its 770 employees said they would resign if they didn't bring back Sam Altman, the CEO, as we mentioned. And for a moment, Microsoft hired Altman and the ex-president, Greg Brockman. But now Altman and Brockman are back at the helm.
It seems to me that the big winner here is really Sam Altman, who is back as CEO and now with a much friendlier board. What do you guys think?
It also seems that once again, Satya Nadella has shown himself to be an excellent operator for Microsoft. But, sorry, it was back to OpenAI's product developments. Do you think that the Altman fiasco is linked to any of that?
Well, that's still unclear. It's speculated that the board disagreement concerned specifically OpenAI's non-profit status and the board's hesitance about lifting guardrails on AI development. And it seems that maybe Sam, the CEO, is more focused on the commercialization of the business, in contrast to what they were sort of brought in for, the board. The interesting but also telling thing is that this news came out after the announcement by Altman of AI agents, which give companies or individuals the ability to make custom versions of ChatGPT for specific use cases without needing to code. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, and disagree if you like, but to me, this seems to represent another step in the commoditization of LLMs, and potentially a feature which could be as impactful as the introduction of the App Store. Well, that's what some people are saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a bit of a hectic one for AI this month. Just about the AI agents you mentioned, though, do you think they will achieve the impact of the App Store? Because I know a lot of people have made that comparison, but I think it's quite bold. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I think you're partly right. It is probably too bold a statement. We will see how this develops, especially with the recent upheaval at OpenAI. That may change some things. I think although AI agents or custom GPTs may well sound extremely disruptive, and your mind may already be exploding with the amazing benefits of an AI dating coach who will tell you the exact matcha ice cream spot to go to on a date, or how a startup mentor will turn you into the next Sam Altman, I think it's also important to consider that the information that these GPTs will draw upon is already publicly available. They won't offer any real unique insight or new ideas. based on that, at this time, whether they will be truly transformative remains to be seen. And whether they rival the App Store in the short term seems to me to be sort of unlikely.
I think you're not going to be getting a second date if you go to a matcha ice cream place personally. But
What do you mean? You always need a suave new date spot, man.
But anyway, what would you say about the commercial impacts of these AI agents and the effect of this product on internal company processes that could be more impactful, surely, like maybe in training, for example?
In terms of its commercial impact, I would again say it probably won't drive massive value at the expense of competitors. Instead, it will probably just become table stakes. In other words, something everyone adopts and so offers limited differentiation for companies. Its effect, though, as you say, on training or increased internal efficiency and is a good note. It's definitely worth considering. And it will probably increase cost efficiency, which will allow for the part automation of some jobs and decrease company costs. However, this won't necessarily see greater revenues, as this type of change historically has usually been accompanied by reduced costs of a product or service to the consumer, and downstream improved consumer experience.
Part automation doesn't actually sound all that bad. If that means a 4-day work week, then bring it on.
Yeah, I could definitely support a 4-day work week for sure.
So, other than the prospect of us getting a whole extra day for our avid FTE consumption, what do you want to talk about this month, Emma?
I think I'm going to go for the AI Summit, which was actually held here in the UK at Bletchley Park, which was actually where Alan Turing helped crack the German codes during the Second World War. I mean, other people might know him better from the Benedict Cumberbatch character in The Imitation Game. But yeah, some would say he is indeed the granddad of AI. I don't think he ever expected his grandchild to have a summit of its own with the world leaders coming. But there we go. So what were the main takeaways? So there's a broad agreement between experts on the immediate threats of AI for sure, such as mainly bias, misinformation, copyright, and data privacy. So copyright emerges as a fundamental short-term risks. I mean, lawsuits are already piling up against AI companies accused of copying and processing millions of images and content protected by copyright. Furthermore, tech companies are willing to cooperate on testing advanced AI models. This is an important step and could help shed more clarity around things like who owns content generated by AI, when the new work itself can be copyrighted. Finally, the EU, China and the US are leading on setting these standards. But anyways, I think regarding China and the US, it's interesting that these two counterparts were there to meet together to discuss one of the main things that has been a hot topic between them in the past year in particular. I mean, it wasn't even sure whether China would even be invited up till recently. The US and the rest of the world are slowly blocking China's access to high-end chips, which are necessary for AI development.
So do you think that's going to have a significant impact on Chinese companies, or do you think China will manage to get around it, maybe?
I mean, Beijing is mobilising its national resources to develop competitive AI, while also trying to strive for chip self-sufficiency. So I expect that China might be concerned that by the time it produces high-end chips at the same level as the rest of the world, it will be too late for Chinese AI companies to have caught up with the development and level of the US companies, like OpenAI, for example, which they have had the privilege of all these high-end chips.
I've got to be honest, every time you mention chips, I just think of chips with ketchup. So let's hurry this along because it's getting me a bit hungry. And then, so what stood out to you, Patrick?
Yeah, Patrick, let's make this brief this time, yeah?
No. It's just not my way.
Everyone get settled in then.
So what I wanted to really talk about, I'm really trying to hit the social media theme this month. Talk about X and how several companies have pulled their ads from the platform. So IBM, Disney, Comcast, Xfinity, Sony, loads others, they've all temporarily at least withdrawn or otherwise completely pulled their ads from X. Most notably, Apple has done too. So since Elon Musk took over, X's US ad revenue has been down 59% in April of this year as compared to the same point last year. So just from a financial perspective, this move's going to be really, really damaging for them. But it's also a reputation thing as well. Being endorsed by the most valuable company in the world is obviously important, but to then have that company that you yourself has said is correct for standing by X pull out really demonstrates the fragility of the platform right now.
I've been reading up on this a little bit, but I wouldn't say I'm as chronically online as you are. Yeah, I mean, every time I turn my right on your desk, you're always on TikTok. So anyway, moving on.
TikTok at what?
Don't call me out like that.
Sorry. So what's been going on here?
So since Musk took over X, he and the platform have been in a fair bit of hot water. So he personally reinstated a number of prominent suspended controversial accounts, like former President Donald Trump, even after promising that he wouldn't. There was also research conducted by the Center for Countering Digital Hate about this last year that found that the number of tweets containing various slurs, particularly against black people and trans people, increased massively, 53% in the latter case. It got so bad that even Twitter's head of trust and safety, Yoel Roth, resigned. An increase in the use of offensive terms for Jewish people was also noted, which relates to this most recent episode of the saga. Musk most recently replied in endorsement to a post on X that Media Matters and the White House have noted as supporting the anti-Semitic Great Replacement theory. And then to make matters worse, Media Matters then reported that ads were being routinely placed alongside similarly hateful content, like full-on pro-Nazi stuff at times even. And this is what's prompted IBM to first pull its ads from X, the company stating that it has a, quote, zero-tolerance policy for hate speech and discrimination. And the same is true for several other companies that I mentioned earlier. Once again, Disney and Apple are the big ones just on their own. So cumulatively speaking, this is a big, big deal for X and social media as a whole. What these advertisers have recognized is that because this kind of content is being endorsed by the platform's owner, there's little chance of this issue being addressed quickly enough, hence why they've at least suspended activities for now.
I mean, it sounds like X's performance on tackling misinformation and extremist content is very poor, to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
Does this speak to the need for better regulation of social media platforms when it comes to this sort of stuff, do you guys think?
I mean, well, not necessarily. I think it really depends on how you want to interpret need, I think. So this all falls under tech reg, which I know you've been researching and writing up for in our predictions report, Hugo. So I'll come back to that very quickly. But when platforms face the problem of underregulated bigotry and misinformation, there's a few main ways that they themselves can deal with it outside of being directly regulated by any sort of government. So they can take the 4chan or 8chan route and just commit to an idea of total free speech, no moderation, anonymity, whole 9 yards, right? And if they're not keen on that take, they can then take the Reddit route and regulate using moderators from the community that all abide by their own official code of conduct and avoid alienating huge numbers of potential users as 4chan does. You can go one step further and more centrally self-regulate and enforce a set of community guidelines with warnings and bans and the like. And until Musk took over, promising a haven of free speech, even though it already was, Twitter was well on its way down the self-regulating route. In reinstating previously banned figures and weakening community guideline enforcement, Musk is just dealing with the consequences of having a less popular platform that generates less revenue. To kind of circle it all back, my point is that finally, I know. My point is that as far as a platform's performance is concerned, there isn't really a need for government regulation, because to a pretty significant degree, the market regulates itself. So if, say, you as the owner of a social media platform wanted to run a popular platform and pay off the debts you took out to purchase it, it stands to reason that you would take steps to make sure that you retain users and companies that use your platform to advertise their own products that pay you for the privilege. And if you don't, the market will punish you before government regulators can catch up. Like, government regulation has its place, and we can be glad that governments are getting to grips with it in the interest of the public. But this kind of regulation isn't about ensuring company performance, but rather providing a consistent approach for all platforms in the absence of any market-generated industry standards. So they can also contribute to making a poorly behaved platform's life a bit more difficult, and really force them to get in line. As you've written, Hugo, X will likely be facing fines if it doesn't really start tackling misinformation on its platform, adding to its very serious financial concerns. And I'm done now.
That was very interesting and semi-brief, so thank you.
Semi-brief, yeah.
Right, Patrick, get your breath back. As for next month, I'm sure you're very excited to hear what Hugo has to say for next month's headline. What are your festive December top headlines then?
So, festive December headline. Father Christmas will give Rudolph a much-needed holiday and subcontract his deliveries to Amazon drones.
Brilliant. Can't wait for that. Next, due to an ageing population concerns in Lapland putting pressure on working elf demographics, the Elven Labour Front, also known as ELF, will be calling for industrial action for pension reform, improved working conditions, and of course access to an FT subscription.
It's the most important demand of them all.
Obviously. So we're very sorry, but we didn't quite get our guests round this time, but we promise very much that I'm sending very forceful emails to get them round next month for you guys.
These are celebrity guests you've definitely heard of. You do not want to miss out. Make sure you're here next month.